Hello and welcome back to You Can Play Europa Universalis IV, the series where we cover one basic concept of the game in 5 to 10 minutes and then let you go about playing the game, playing this awesome game. So today I want to talk about advisors. And advisors are something we have touched on a couple of times very briefly, mostly in context of monarch points, because above all else, advisors primarily do that, right? If you want to break this game down into min-maxing and stats and numbers, really the central idea of what an advisor does is this number right here, which we talked about last time, is added directly to your monarch points by admin, diplo, military. And as you hover over it, you can see that Jaladas is adding +2. But there's other things going on with advisors and things you want to keep in mind. Most importantly is that they have a cost associated with them, and that is the main thing preventing you from just starting the game and throwing a bunch of +3 advisors on there. So +3 is the normal maximum that you can get with an advisor. They come in +1, +2, and +3 varieties. With the cost roughly doubling for each. So +1's going to be somewhere around 1 or 2 ducats a month. +2, as you can see here, and what are +1? Yeah, 1.6. +2 is a little more than double that, obviously, maybe about 3 times. So around 6 ducats a month, and a level 3 advisor is about 15. Now that does change over time, depending on a lot of things. As you advance through the game, your advisors are just going to slowly, steadily increase in the cost. Also, to purchase an advisor, to hire one, you also have an initial cost that you have to pay. So if I wanted to hire this guy, he costs 22.6 just right out of my treasury right away. Plus, he also is going to cost monthly maintenance of 1.62 a month. That is primarily a thing that you're going to use your money for, right? Particularly in the early game, advisors end up being a large chunk, along with army, of what your monthly income is spent. And you can actually go into the economy screen, open the country view, click on the little economy button, and you can see what your incomes are and what your expenses are. And as you can see here, my primary expense almost evenly are advisors and my military. And between the two, roughly my advisors are costing more than my entire tax base brings in. So advisors are expensive. Of course, I can get rid of them, right? Which you can do. I've just hired both of these two to sort of set the example of this video. As we can see, this is sort of later game. The game starts at 1444, so this is about 140 years into my playthrough of this game, which I have as a series on this same channel. If you want to see how I'm building Mawar here, but you can also fire them. So if you just are out of money, you can't continue to afford the expense, or you see a better advisor that you want to hire, you can fire your advisor. So why have them? They also add, in many cases, a really good benefit. These are some of my favorite benefits they offer, but as you can see, you'll get a selection of advisors that you can choose from, and each one offers a different thing. If you're unlucky, they might all offer the same thing, but it's sort of a random roll, and there's a pool of possible things they can offer. This guy reduces the amount I have to pay for my troops, so increases the amount of manpower I have available to me. This guy makes my forts do better. This guy reduces the national unrest, which is really good right now because I have some factions thinking about rising up. And there's just a whole bunch of little benefits you add. So in many cases, the decision you'll make in hiring an advisor is, what can I afford? How can I maximize my monarch points for what I can afford? And which advisor that does that offers me the best benefit? I will say each of these, your admin, your diplomatic, and your military advisors, there are some that I just like are my go-to. National unrest is one of those. Another is missionary strength if you're going to be taking over lands with another religion other than yours. Sometimes the national tax modifier guy will show up. That's also very beneficial. Here in the Diplo, improved relations and diplomatic reputation are sort of 1 and 2. If I see those, it's going to be one of those. In many cases, it's going to be diplomatic reputation. We'll get into a little bit more of why I like those when we talk a little bit more about diplomacy. Military, for me, it is discipline or morale. Those are 1 and 2. If I see those are sort of snap automatic picks for me. Secondarily is maintenance costs. So I talked about, in fact, I got it confused. Manpower modifier. There's also one where you can get where it will reduce the amount you have to pay your army, so it's not taking up quite so much money. It doesn't offset the cost of the advisor in most cases, but it certainly is a help on the strain. There are ideas that you can pick up that will change a lot about your advisors as well, particularly up here in innovative. For example, you can have possible advisors +1. You saw when I clicked that button, there were only 2 or 3 options in there. As you get ideas and technology and even events, you can add to the number of possible advisors, which is good because that gives you more options for the things that you want to have appear, show up. You can also get reductions in the advisor cost as well, making them substantially cheaper. This is actually, innovative is not one I go for very often, but it's one I always end up thinking a little bit about, and primarily because of advisor cost. However, I will say as you get further and further into the game, right, your ability to pay for those advisors becomes equally easier. So that is a very useful, that 25% reduction in the advisor cost is great in the first 100 or 200 years, and then almost becomes irrelevant later on because you have so many other ways that you're getting those monarch points and those benefits through ideas, where a lot of times you can just say, never mind about the advisor. You can increase your advisor's value. So you can spend a bunch of money to promote your advisor, essentially increasing this number here. So if I click this button, spent 387 ducats, he would now be a +3 advisor, and this number would move up to 12. It's important to note that what they do, national unrest, improved relation, discipline, those do not change. Those are fixed. Regardless of the level of advisor, this is always going to be a national unrest +2 advisors. They have an age, and around early mid-40s, they start running the risk of dying. Eventually, your advisors will disappear, whether that's through an event or they just die of old age, and you will have to replace them to continue to pick up that thing. As a dude in his early 40s, this is not something I hover over and think about a lot. The last thing I will say is advisors do have their own religion and culture. I almost never think about this, but there are some nations where this is more relevant than others. I think the Mamluks, for example, have some abilities come if you have your advisor's culture and religion match your own. I think I've also seen situations where having a mix of advisors actually gives you some benefits, but they're really in the background. You're almost never going to think about it. So this is something you can look at, think about if you want to dive in and really, really sort of micromanage your advisors. Honestly, I had to remind myself to even mention it. So keep that in mind. I think that's all I'm going to say about advisors. That gives you the core of the makeup, the things that you need to think about. When you're first starting a game, you want to look at how much money you have coming in. Think about how much you want to pay your army. Think about where your gaps are as far as what you're producing from your monarch points. So, for example, if you have a king who is a 0-4-3 king, right, then your admin income is going to be really low, and you might think about picking up an administrative advisor. Also, you can do some things with estates to get advisors, but we'll talk about that more when we get into estates as well. Anyway, that's advisors for you. Now go play Europa Universalis IV, because you can do it. Just go do it. It's fun. Have fun. Until next time, my name's Sean Sands. We'll see ya.